comes to trees, Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens is the place to be. Check it all out this week at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens, Southeast 38th Street, Ocala. Daily till 4, Saturdays till 3, in the same blooming place since 1952.
Time Out Billiards and Grill. That's right, Billiards and Grill. Located on Pine between the police department and Rawhide in Ocala. Come in and enjoy some great food from the grill 12 till 8 p.m. Then shoot some pool anytime from 12 noon till 2 a.m. Time Out Billiards and Grill even has happy hour from 2 till 7 p.m. There's more fun on weekdays, Monday to Friday. It's free pool for everyone from noon till 4 p.m. Time Out Billiards and Grill. Questions? Call 352-444-POOL.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Five minutes after 11 o'clock. I hope you're doing well. Beautiful day out there. 20 years ago, Robin, I was an activities director at an assisted living facility. How about that?
That's right. Exactly.
Before I started doing radio, that's what I was doing. Yeah, I did that for like 3 years. Anyway, so I have a memory from that I want to share with you. The building the building the residents lived in had a courtyard. And one of the ladies came to me and said, is there any way we could start a garden out there in that courtyard? And I said, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. So I went down to my local Lowe's or one of those stores that had plants, and I came back with a van full of little tiny plants, and I cannot tell you how bright the eyes of those who wanted to do that got. Not everybody was into this, but a lot of people did it. And then we ran into a problem. The lady in the wheelchair couldn't get down to the ground. And so we had, I know you remember the maintenance man, right, Tom?
Yeah.
So Tom built an elevated garden box, or I don't know what you would call it, but it was basically a table with a box on it, and it had dirt in it. And so this lady was able to garden like that. So the good news, if you're living in Florida, you can probably garden all year long. The bad news is we got hurricanes out there, so you got to deal with that, right?
That's right.
All right, Toni Gattone on the phone. Oh my gosh, this is such a great book. It's called The Lifelong Gardener. This is perfect for the kind of circumstance I was just describing from 20 years ago. Toni is a passionate, is it University of California, Robin?
Yes.
Certified master gardener. Is she out in California?
I don't know. I didn't ask.
So they got gardening and earthquakes. We got gardening and hurricanes. Good morning, Toni. How are you? Nice to have you on the phone.
I'm good. Thank you so much, Larry and Robin, for having me on the show. And yes, I am in Northern California, and we can pretty much garden, I'd say, 11 months of the year.
Oh, really? So I'm not familiar with Northern. Yeah. In about a month, Robin and I go into Southern California. So, so one of these days we'll drive up that Pacific Coast Highway and see your area.
Oh yeah! Don't forget to go to wine country.
Yeah. Did you guys get affected? You personally by all those fires we heard about like a while ago, a year ago, or whatever?
No. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. But it's been a very, very dry year again. So we'll see.
Are you in wine country right now, Toni?
I'm about a half hour from wine country and about a half hour from San Francisco.
Okay, I have some friends out there. I have one lady friend. I wonder what can I ask you what town, or is that too personal?
No, it's fine. I'm in a sweet little town called Larkspur.
Larkspur. Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
It's San Francisco. It goes Sausalito, Mill Valley, and then Larkspur.
Okay. So tell me the genesis of the book. It's a different kind of a gardening book than what we've had before.
It is. This book really came about because of my what I inherited from my mother. I inherited a lot of really wonderful things, but her bad back was not one of them. And I had gone through the Master Gardener program, and I thought, wow, what's my message? How do I give back my love of gardening to people? And when my back went out, and I couldn't get out to, use all the research information I had gained from going through the Master Gardener program, I laid on the sofa saying, how am I going to adapt And then I remembered an article I read on adaptive gardening, and the rest is history. I've been speaking on it, and I was up in Seattle doing a talk, and a week later I got a call from the Timber Press publishers asking me if I could turn my seminar
that's awesome. Oh, I love that.
into a book. Yeah, so I knew, what most authors go through, writing the book and then trying to find a publisher. I knew I couldn't say no.
So one of the hacks, I guess, to be able to do what you do is tools. I mean, there's a tractor scoot in the book.
Yes. Well, for the last almost 30 years, I've been a manufacturer's rep. I had my own rep agency with, 8 to 10 reps on the road. So I've been selling garden tools. And when you've got a bad back, you're always looking for ways that you can not have to get down on the ground because, the struggle is getting back up. And I saw that garden scoot on the Gardener's Supply website. And I have some friends that have bought it, and they just said it's fantastic. So
is that
that's
right?
one of many, many tools that I've got in the book.
I think that's pretty ingenious that more and more manufacturers are becoming conscientious of the needs of everyone and not just the few.
Exactly. Well, the baby boomers kind of really got this garden market going in the 80s and the 90s. I used to go out to garden centers and sell them wonderful hand tools and beautiful garden art. And I mean, people couldn't go to the nursery without, spending a couple of $100 because it was just such a feverish hobby. And it still is. It's considered to be the number one hobby amongst seniors. But, the problem is that with baby boomers, they're retiring, so they have more of a fixed income.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, how do I save money rather than spend money?
I like the fact that you have explored edible gardening, because I just think it's just so neat when we go to a restaurant and you can actually eat a flower off of a plate, and it makes it look pretty, but you can actually eat it.
Exactly. And I just really recommend to everyone. I mean, I've integrated edibles into my ornamental landscape, and they go together very well, whether it's in a container or in an elevated raised bed. And I just like to propose that people look into growing their own food. It's a great way for people to be able to, introduce healthy vegetables and salad greens into their diet. And it's a great way so that you don't ever have to be exposed to the listeria and salmonella and E. coli breakouts that we get across the country, because you're controlling what goes on in your backyard.
That's really a good point. I noticed in the book that the solution to the problem that I described in my introduction to you, the wheelchair, the elevated thing, is in the book, and you give the same advice we had to deal with, making sure there's room for the knees.
Exactly. Well, raised beds have been around for a long time, but it just didn't. And the very first raised bed we put in was on the ground, and my back went out once again, and my husband needed a knee replacement. So it was like all I could do was wave at the flowers and the edibles that were growing. And the very next year, we decided to elevate it, and now they're all waist high and easy for people to sit down next to or stand up to tend to. And for wheelchair people, it's critical that they have a keyhole built in so that they can still put their wheelchair in there and to be able to reach all the plants without straining.
And I think you've laid out the book in a very, very wonderful way. I mean, you go outside to the garden where you have just the massive soil and everything, and then you create something that looks like a tic-tac-toe board that you plant different things in to make it just unique to the individual that's having the garden for their landscaping.
That's called square foot gardening. And that was something that was started by Mel Bartholomew many years ago. And it's a way of planting raised beds, or actually any kind of beds, any kind of garden bed, that forces you into planting it in a way that is going to be the most conducive for that particular plant. And there's a number of books by Mel called Square Foot Gardening that gardeners can refer to, and we've used it now for 5-6 years, and he's right. You don't get very many pests or weeds for that matter.
And this
So
is
it's really a good
Interesting.
system.
Wow.
But this is a really good thing for the children, too, when they have horticulture classes in school, even in elementary school. They can all have their tiny garden, and at the end of the year, it's portable. They can take it home.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, to me, that's the real joy of gardening, is to be able to share what you know with other people. You know, pass it on, if you will. I do that with our granddaughters. I have a section of my garden that is all containers, and it's all, I call it my salad bar. And I have, maybe 8 or 10 different kinds of salad greens, spinach, arugula, mizuna, I mean, all different kinds. And I take my granddaughters out and show them how this grows, how you take the leaves from the outside, and then the pride that they have at dinner, knowing that they made the salad.
Oh, that is cool. I love that.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's very cool.
One other thing. I am not a gardener, but I've adopted 3 plants. Are you ready? I'm growing an apple tree from a seed, believe it or not. I bit into an apple about 2.5 years ago.
Yes.
And the seed was growing already in the apple, had a little bit of a root. So I did the kindergarten thing, put it in a wet paper towel, and it started growing. Next thing you know, it's in a coffee cup. Now it's got to be 4.5 feet tall. And we got a hurricane coming, so I got to bring it in. It's in a pot.
Yeah.
Okay? So I wanted to ask you about pots because I don't know anything about them. I have Robin to lean on for advice. But when I went to the store to buy a pot, I didn't know. They were asking me, does it need to be porous? Does it need to be this? Does it need to be that? But you have a little guide in here, but I still am confused.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the most important thing you need is to have drainage. So the pot's got to have a hole in it. I mean, you can use anything for a pot as long as it has drainage. I don't personally care for the ones that are porous. They're made of fabric material.
Oh, right.
Just because the salts from our water kind of leach through, and they kind of look pretty tacky after a while. But, you know, if you're going to grow an apple tree, you need to get a pot that's maybe, you know, I don't know, start with something that's 8 to 12 inches wide and deep, so that you don't have to transplant it all the time.
I think it's made out of clay, the one I have, right, Robin?
Yes, it's a clay pot.
And I do see the salt coming through it too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
You do. Well, see, I
think that's what it is. I'm sorry?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You have to come down here, and Larry will take you on a tour.
This is radio, not TV, so I can't tell you off the top.
All right, Toni Gattone is our guest. Her book is awesome. It's called The Lifelong Gardener. And real quick question, Toni, to get permission from you, can we take phone calls? Would you like to speak to some listeners?
Sure, that would be fine.
Okay, let me see if I can make this happen. Good morning. You're on the air with Toni Gattone. Are you there? Good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead. Well, whoever it is isn't saying much. Okay, sorry about that.
What do you think about when a person lives in an area to just concentrate on having native plants within their gardening realm, or is it okay to intersperse non-native plants?
Well, you can do both, most definitely. But my suggestion would be is that you have them in different areas of the garden, because a native plant, once it's established, is not going to use very much water. So you want to the plants according to the sun that they want and the water requirements as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the, I don't know if I'm going to use the word emotional or psychological, but just the spiritual, the thing that happens inside of you? Because I remember when I was working at the assisted living facility, it really did, and maybe it was the camaraderie, because there wasn't just one lady doing it. There would be 7 ladies out there, and it was like a little club they had, and the guys liked to go out there too. They didn't garden, but they would talk. So, but so there was some kind of a, I don't know, what do you call it?
Camaraderie?
Yeah, but what do you call it when you go to church? They were congregating. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So do you get that same benefit just by the sheer action of being out with the garden?
Most definitely. Oh my gosh, most definitely. I mean, I just look at it this way: is that I want to try to encourage people to get out of the house, get out of the air conditioning, into the fresh air, into nature where they can absorb some vitamin D. I think it's so important for people to get out, because they've proven there are so many benefits to gardening. The most important thing is that it reduces your stress level and it promotes relaxation.
I need to do this.
When you're out there, that's all you can think about. Is that plant that's in front of you and what you can possibly do to make that plant happy. And I can't help but think that it is a camaraderie thing. It's the social benefits of congregating, being together, allows for people to be able to, what's the word I'm looking for here? To be able to just, the joy of growing something.
Oh yeah,
can
I
make
believe.
you happier. Can make you happier. But also while you're out there, the physical benefits of being able to, do some bending and stretching and exercise is really important. And sitting in front of a TV isn't going to do it for you. You need to get outside in nature, move around, get your hands in the soil. I mean, I recently read a report saying that there's a harmless soil organism called Mycobacterium vaccae. And they have proved that it'll improve the levels of the serotonin and reduce inflammation when you're exposed to soil.
I need to get out more.
I had learned a new phrase from you, the silver tsunami.
The silver tsunami is what's happening now with baby boomers, people that were born between 1946 and 1964. And there are 78 million baby boomers becoming seniors every year. So it's a huge, huge population that people are concerned about from a housing standpoint, from transportation standpoint. We're the largest population. I think we're like something like 12% of the population are now baby boomers. And when you consider the fact that baby boomers started this whole thing that's going on with gardeners, with gardening, that people need to pay attention. People need to understand that we're a different kind of a group. We're very resilient. We're creative. We recognize that we have options. We're the kind that actually is going to say to themselves, there's got to be another way to get this done. Because I think the battle cry, if you will, for baby boomers is that we never give up.
Toni, you're a master gardener. I am not even close, and I don't think that I would ever be. Do I need to know the level of information like with the fertilizer numbers and all that other stuff, or is it? Can you wing it? Can you be an amateur gardener?
Oh, of course. I mean, we all start out as amateur gardeners. I think the thing that I enjoyed about becoming a master gardener is First of all, I was raised by a Sicilian father in Chicago who had his own myths of what you're supposed to do in the garden.
Oh, really?
For years I followed his instructions. And like one, I remember him saying you put a 5-cent plant in a 10-cent, a nickel plant in a dime hole. And the way he looked at it is that you dig a hole twice as wide and twice as deep. And it wasn't until I became a master gardener that I realized why my garden wasn't doing well. Because when you plant something and you've dug a hole twice as deep as the root ball, that plant is going to sink.
Oh.
So pretty soon the plant is being suffocated by all the soil because it's sinking down into the earth.
So I would have done the same
So
thing.
when you become a master gardener, they dispel all those myths. And it's research-based information. And the other thing that's great about it is for seniors who tend to be, they tend to have, their communities are getting smaller. Their loneliness factor is pretty high. Becoming a master gardener at any age is possible. And it's not an expensive thing by any means. You have to put in some time, and it differs from state to state. But the rewards that you get from it are so amazing. And if anything else, you're in a class of 20, 30 other people. And so your community grows exponentially.
When a person has a focus like gardening, family members and friends like to give gifts to that person that reflect their focus for holidays and birthdays and things like that. How does the master gardener accept these different gifts of tools and things and then keep them separate from the tools that they actually need and are comfortable with?
What do you mean? I don't know if I understand your question.
Yeah, because when you're gardening, you've got those little claw-looking things, and you've got little shovels and stuff. But sometimes they receive gifts of other types of gardening tools that the gardener really doesn't use. So how do you keep the most used tools consolidated, and then the other ones sort of off to the side without getting them mixed up?
Sure. Well, I think one of the most important things that I suggest to people, the whole premise of my book is to help gardeners save time, money, space, and above all, energy. If you've got tools in your garage or your tool shed that you're not using, donate them. Go to a community garden and donate tools that you're not using. Because as we age, we need to eliminate clutter from our lives. And to hold on to tools that were gifts that you're never going to use, give them to somebody else who will use them. And eliminate anything that is rusted, that you haven't used. Maybe you've got something that was your grandfather's, but, you're not going to use it. It doesn't work anymore or whatever. Hang it up in your garden so you can display it and still appreciate it.
I love that.
Get rid of it. If you're not using it, make it go away.
I remember when we got the dirt for the elevated garden that I just described earlier. I mean, it's 20 years ago already, but I remember when we got the dirt, we also got these little kits, and they had the little fork thing that Robin was talking about. I think they had 3 tools in them: a little shovel, a little fork, and something else. A little hoe, maybe?
Yeah.
I wonder if they still have them. I wonder if they're still using them over there.
Oh, sure they are. They are. But the most important tool that a gardener should really invest their budget into is a good pruner, because you use a pruner more than any other tool.
Really?
Oh yeah. And that's number one, and that's the one that if you're going to invest anything, you buy yourself a good pruner that's not $12. 40. They can cost $40 to $100.
Wow.
You're going to take care of it.
Better get a good one. Better get you get what you pay for, right? This is
exactly.
You're getting really good reviews on Amazon. The book again is called The Lifelong Gardener. Toni Gattone, Gattone. Toni, do you have a website you'd like to direct us to, or just go to the bookstore?
Well, most definitely. It's the same thing. It's ToniGattone.com.
Okay.
I've got it's rich with blogs, lots of information. People can sign up for my monthly newsletter, and receive my 20-page ebook, which is more information about adaptive gardening. And I also sell tools and my book on the website. So, or they can go, like you say, bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever. But yeah, there's a lot of information out there, and I'm happy to share this with as many gardeners as possible.
Wow, the brightest interview of the morning for sure.
Yeah, I love this.
Thank you so much for doing this for us, Toni, and talking to us. And for we'll be in Southern California, but we'll look north and wave.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Larry and Robin.
Thank you, Toni. All right, we'll be right back.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. A report on former FBI Director James Comey's release by the Justice Department